welcome back. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be joined by the hero, one of the heroes of the first Fort Hood massacre, Sergeant Howard E. Ray. He saved 9 lives. That'll be next hour. That was my mistake. And but joining us now is our friend, Newsmax contributor, economist, and University of Maryland professor, the great, the one, the only Peter Morici. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Peter. Good to talk to you. So, you know, I mean, I was in a state of shock. I couldn't believe that when I saw the CNN alert come over my my BlackBerry that that there was another Fort Hood shooting.
I'm absolutely amazed. It's really, it says something about the state of morale and also just the screening of people in the military. I mean, this is just a terrible situation. When they're not safe on their own bases within their own country, it says a great deal. It says that this is an administration that has wholly ignored the defense of the United States of America.
Yeah, and you know, they tried to pass a bill through Congress in the wake of the first terrorist attack at Fort Hood that soldiers be allowed to carry guns on their own military bases, and they're not allowed to. And you know, I've talked to several people today who were involved in the first Fort Hood and commenting on this second Fort Hood, and they say we've learned nothing, and as long as they don't let us, you know, keep guns, this will happen again.
Yes, it will. I mean, there's no, you know, now that this has happened, these things have a way of being contagious, and so that there is, you know, there is every expectation that someone will do something like this again. I don't know, though, that arming the soldiers is necessarily what you want to do. That may actually make this sort of thing more likely. I mean, we don't normally arm troops when they don't need to be armed. You know, stateside and that nature. I don't know. Now, whether there should be access to firearms in an emergency or more immediate access is something else. How that could be arranged, I would guess you'd have to ask the experts in the military that run these bases.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Talk about tomorrow we have the job numbers coming out. You know, I heard today that I think 16,000 for increase of 16,000 in the first-time jobless claims. Yet I heard somebody on one of the stations talking about how, oh no, hiring is good. It's picked up in March, notwithstanding the slack off in this week's numbers, etc. So where are we? What number are you looking for tomorrow, and what will it mean?
Well, we're looking for about 206,000. That's the official, you know, consensus of economists that do forecasts.
Is that based on ADP? Is that an ADP-based number, or?
No, the ADP number is not particularly reliable. It's based on our reading of the economy. We handed in that number last Saturday to the various polls. Econoday, which does the Wall Street Journal compilation, Reuters, which does its own, Bloomberg, MarketWatch International, and so forth. That's just based on our forecast of where the economy is going. And what that means is the economy is going to continue at a little bit better pace than it has. You know, we were not that much lower last year, but we were under 200,000. And it means that we're not going to get the kind of jobs growth that we need to have to sustain, you know, full employment, to get everybody working again, to get wages rising, to have a healthy jobs market. You know, Janet Yellen was quite correct when she said that this economy is going to need support from the Fed for quite some time. I think a lot longer than the Fed itself thinks.
What is the cutoff, or not the cutoff, but what is the number? Isn't the number that you need at least 250,000 jobs a month to, you know, to think about breaking out of this this doldrum that we've been in, whatever you want to call it, ever since, you know, Obama took office?
I would say it's more like 350 to 400,000, almost double, because we have so many people who've left the labor force who we need to have come back. The economy since the turn of the century has only grown at 1.9%. The prior 20 years it grew at 3.4%. In that tells the whole tale. And it's not just the Obama people, it's the Obama-Bush administrations together, for varying reasons, have not made the right moves. They haven't dealt with trade effectively. They haven't signing more trade agreements is a fool's journey because they don't work. We keep having bigger and bigger trade deficits, and trade deficits pull down employment. We don't develop our own oil and gas. We lower our national productivity not by regulating those who need to be regulated, but not regulating them properly. I mean, look what goes on Wall Street. This whole flash trade scandal illustrates that no matter how many regulators you put up there, until you change the basic structure of Wall Street, you're not going to make real progress. And Obamacare is another example. It imposes enormous inefficiencies on the economy, and that's all I can say.
Yeah, and you know, the word uncertainty, everything you're describing, you know, uncertainty, regulation, Obamacare, threat of regulation, and tax policy, and not knowing exactly what to expect. We keep hearing that these companies and businesses are sitting on all kinds of cash, and why aren't they hiring? They're greedy, they're evil. But isn't it uncertainty?
More than that, the Obama people, the movement really that he represents, has created a fundamental cultural shift. For example, today on Diane Rehm on NPR, the focus was on this recent Supreme Court decision with regard to campaign financing. And they had a woman activist on there who pounded every other word was corporate funding, corporate funding, corporate funding. Like being a corporation is bad. We want them to create jobs, but we villainize them. Okay?
Right.
And then we bail out those that have big unions like General Motors, but we let flounder those that don't. Essentially, this administration makes... I'm going to tell you a story. I once had an administrative assistant who was really in the movement, and she had a terrible plumbing problem in her basement with the outline. And she went home at lunch, and things were even worse. And I said to her, well, what happened? Well, I hired a woman plumber. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with women being plumbers if they want to be. But she thought just because she hired a woman plumber that she would get the desired outcome.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Exactly, and that's the way they are. Well, we have good environmental regulations. To give you an idea how naive he is, at the beginning of his administration, he said the reason we weren't creating jobs was because there was uncertainty about the pricing of carbon. Ergo, if we had put in place really tough CO2 emission regulations, somehow or other miraculously we would have created jobs. Well, you know, he was half right. We would have created jobs, but all of them would have been in China, because they would have all gone over there. Just like the folly of imposing very tough CO2 emission regulations on the U.S. economy if China does nothing. I mean, China creates another United States every 4 years with its rate of growth in CO2 emissions. So if we cut ours by 20%, we're basically taking about 3 months out of their handiwork. It makes no sense. Then unless you can get the Chinese on board, you know, but the point, you see what I'm getting at. It's this value-based economic policy that's sort of, you know, kind of like based on social good. Somebody has to pay the bills. Mr. Obama thinks the other thing, uncertainty, every time he makes a speech, it's a new tax or a new regulation.
Right.
So I mean, if you were General Electric, where would you be putting your money? You wouldn't be putting it here.
Yeah. No. And you know, I guess there's no change that we could see on the horizon unless and until, you know, the next president, or at least if this the Senate changes hands and somehow he's persuaded to work with Republican Congress and Senate, although I wouldn't hold my breath, certainly. Peter, always great to see you and talk to you and get your viewpoint. Thank you, sir.
Take care. We'll see you.
All right. It's Peter Morici, ladies and gentlemen, Newsmax contributor, University of Maryland professor, and economist here on the Steve Malzberg Show. It'll be interesting to see what those jobs numbers are tomorrow, and you know, and what do they really mean? Because, you know, we've gone up slightly, we've gone down. We've never been anywhere near what Peter alluded to as a number that would really make a difference, as a number that would get us headed in the opposite direction from where we've been, or undo the stagnation. We're coming back. Waleed Faries on the Steve Malzberg Show.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.